Welcome to Off Brand by Cocokind. I'm Priscilla, Cocokind's founder and CEO, and each week I get into the real, unfiltered side of building a brand alongside our community and creating substantive beauty products. We don't believe in trying to be anyone but ourselves, and we don't think you should either. So come along as we get real and imperfect, go deeper on topics most beauty companies won't, and get a bit off brand. Hi everyone, welcome back to Off Brand by Cocokind. Today is our episode number 3. I feel like I'm getting a hang of it a little bit, and we are diving into all things retail. We get so many questions about retail. I feel like our customers are actually really interested always in like the business side of things, of how our products actually get on shelves, because it is so complicated. It really is so complicated, and it's not something that like consumers really know about at all. So we're gonna dive into all things retail today. It's kind of a perfect topic for a podcast, especially because right now we actually just rolled out our first ever full brand endcap at Ulta Beauty. It is our single largest investment we have ever made in retail since the start of Cocokind, and actually just the largest investment we've ever made, period. It is expensive to do end caps, but we are so excited. So it actually rolled out in 1,000 out of like the 1,400 Ulta Beauty stores, and it will be full 3 shelves of just Cocokind goodness. So we are very excited. It's been something we've been working on for months and months and months. Not only that, we actually just doubled our footprint at Ulta Beauty. So we used to have 24 inches and we just doubled that to 48 inches. But it's not all rainbows and butterflies, because there was something I was really disappointed that happened along that change, and we'll get to that. I thought it was a perfect opportunity to talk about that, but also just kind of rewind it back, take a couple steps back, and just talk about overall, how does retail work? Because let me tell you, as much as it brings you so much joy to see things like a brand end cap or new products go on the shelf, there are as many challenges, if not more challenges, when it comes to working with retail. So let's dive in, because there's just so much to discuss. And hopefully it allows you to understand a little bit about how we make decisions as a brand to continue to build our business when it comes to our retail partners. I want to first talk about the very basic first step. How do you get into stores? When you're a small brand, you either have to get the attention of a buyer somehow. So in the case of Target, I believe I met a senior buyer at a trade show, and she just really liked the line. So she allowed us to come into Minneapolis and have a meeting with them. Or in the case of Ulta Beauty, we had already been around for a little bit and we'd established this really awesome community. We got rejected, I think, 1 year, and then the second year they were like, okay, you've really grown your community. And when you have a customer community, that really helps to get their attention too. So you kind of just have to get into the room with a retailer, whether or not you see them randomly at a trade show, or you cold email them and they actually respond, or maybe you actually have such a big customer community that they already know you. That's kind of the best case scenario. Definitely not how it was for a lot of our retailers, for us. But then you get into a room, you show them your line, you do a whole presentation, and typically they will let you know whether they're going to bring you in stores. Maybe they want to test you out online at first. Maybe they want to just do a test with you. So for instance, when we launched at Target, so we actually launched at 100 doors only. They have 1,800 stores, and we only launched with 3 products. And a year and a half later, we ended up rolling out to like all of the stores with 8 products, I believe. But they basically told us like, hey, we're gonna do a test with your brand in a smaller subset of stores to see if your performance is worth going into the entire chain. So they typically will give you a decision, and we've been rejected plenty of times before, and that is totally normal. You have to remember that these retailers are getting hit up by like every single brand. Some of the brands are already huge brands that are going into a store for the first time, or some brands are brand new with no following. So really they're doing like hundreds of meetings, and they're getting so much inbound from all different types of brands to get into the store. So it's very competitive just to get into that meeting. If they actually accept you, you might have a range of outcomes. Like I said, you can go into 100 doors, you can go into the whole chain, you can go on online only. That's always something that the retailers had said to us, is like, we'll test you online only, which we were always very hesitant about, because we have our own online business. So for us, it's not that beneficial to just go on a retailers.com. But at the same time, if it's the only way in, you're gonna kind of do that to just try to get your foot in the door. We actually didn't get into Target until, I wanna say it was 2020 was when we went chain wide. So we had already been in business for like a couple years before we even got into Target. And we had already had so many of our customers asking for us to be sold there. So it definitely helped our case. And if we didn't have that customer community already built online, they definitely would have rejected us again. So Target rejected us, I want to say 2 years in a row before they actually accepted us. Ulta rejected us once, but they said like, oh, we'll launch you on Ulta.com first. We're not really willing to take that next step to be in stores yet. So they launched us .com, and then after we went on .com, I want to say 2 years after that, that's when they gave us a test in 700 doors. So it takes a lot to get into stores. I believe you should really have like a customer community already, especially as a small brand that isn't funded by like millions and millions of dollars. Like you have to have some sort of customer community that is ready to meet you at a retailer. Getting in the door is one thing, but actually selling to a customer, that is much, much harder to do. So with that, I also want to talk about the overall economics of selling to our retailers. So most retailers will take somewhere between like 40 to 60% of your profit immediately. So let's just call that 50%. So what that means is that if our electrolyte water cream is $20, we sell it to them at $10. That's a very real situation. That's immediately how much they're purchasing from us. We already lose 50%. So some retailers will also have co-op fees, and co-op fees can be as high as like 10, 12%. So right off the bat, the retailer could already be taking like 50 or even 65% based on your product cost to them as well as co-op fees. So in that situation of a $20 electrolyte water cream, if they're taking 60% between the co-op fee and the product costs, that means that we are selling it to them and we're basically taking home $8. So it sells to you for $20, but we take home $8 from the retailer. That is a very, very real situation. Some retailers will have these things called space buyout fees. So every time you get a new product in, you have to pay a couple $1,000s. Sometimes it could be like $5,000 or $10,000 per product, depending on the number of stores that it's going into. Some retailers don't. Some retailers will force you to kind of participate in promotions. Some retailers won't. Some retailers will have these like marketing fees that you have to agree to. Some of them they don't. So every retailer kind of operates a little bit differently. But the point is that really when you pay $20 for Cocokind at a store, we are getting, a very, very cut down fraction of that. But there's a reason why we do that. And that's because retailers are very important for reaching customers. How could we possibly compete with you going on Amazon Prime or you going to Target or you going to Ulta? And I feel like these days, especially in this current moment, our customers really want to see our products in stores. And we've seen that trend really kind of ebb and flow throughout the years, but that's where we currently are in this moment. If we weren't at Ulta, if we weren't at Target, I don't know if more than half of you would even be here today. And so it's actually really important for the overall company to have partnerships with retail to allow us to just meet more customers and have that volume to support the rest of our business. And while we're definitely making a lower gross margin, right? We're making a lower gross profit from our retailer partners. We actually have a lot of volume that is coming from our retail partners that wouldn't come to us naturally on Cocokind.com, or if it did, we have to be spending so much money on things like Facebook ads and TikTok ads in order to get that same level of volume. And it would actually end up being less profitable for us to do that on Cocokind.com than to sell to a Target or to an Ulta. So even though retailers take so much, it actually is still really beneficial to our business economically to sell to retailers. So we're so lucky to have customers who actually ask us this. People will ask us like, where should I buy Cocokind in order to support you the most? And we always say wherever is most convenient for you, because whether it's Cocokind.com or Ulta or Target, despite the fact that the retailers have much lower gross profit initially than Cocokind.com, it is still extremely important for our customers to meet us at our retailers so we can just stay on the shelves and have that volume. So we really appreciate that question because our customers care so much about us, but the answer is really wherever is most convenient for you. After you do an initial meeting, let's say they accept you, they might let you know that you're accepted like 6 months ahead of it actually being in store. So maybe if something is going in February, they might let you know in August. And you have that 6 months to basically get your shit together. You gotta get your inventory right. You gotta figure out how much they're gonna order. You gotta get your marketing tight. You have to be ready to sell at retail. And that touches every single person in the company, every single possible department, right? From marketing to sales, of course, to ops, accounting, finance. Like there's so much involved in just getting your company ready for retail. And they really only give you like a 6-month lead time. And that includes like a month of like shipping and just getting into stores and everything. So you don't have that much time to just like prepare for everything. So when you are presenting to a retailer, it's kind of important that you already have your ducks in a row. This is not a regular ad. This is a useful ad, okay? What's the actual difference between a mist and a serum? Like if I put the hero ingredients from the Calming Magnesium Mist into a serum formula, what's the actual difference? Well, in terms of efficacy, 0. If I put the exact same concentration of our hero ingredients, magnesium, electrolytes, polylysine, biosaccharide, into a serum, it would give you the exact same results, truly. The only difference is the format of delivery. Is that to say that mists are a waste of money and you should just buy serums? No, because people have different preferences when it comes to the format of a product. Like a mist, it's very watery light, spray all over. You don't even need hands to rub it in. A serum could be milky like our ceramide serum, or it could be tacky like our chlorophyll serum. Moisturizer with the same hero ingredients could be a thin, lightweight moisturizer or a rich moisturizer. I could totally put the exact concentration of our magnesium mist ingredients in a serum or a moisturizer, but the format could make all the difference to you. Imagine if the mist hero ingredients were in a new serum. Some of you might be like, I already have 2 serums and I don't want to apply a third every morning. Why I personally like a mist is that you're not layering on with this any new textural ingredients. This is like a water, barely there texture. You'll spray it and you won't feel it. Maybe you have dry skin, maybe you have oily skin, maybe you have acne prone skin, maybe you have 2 products in your routine, or maybe you have 8. This texture of our magnesium mist won't get in the way for any of you or interfere with any other textures or ingredients in your routine. So in that way, mists are just a really efficient way to get hero ingredients. Not to mention, mists are big. This is 120 milliliters, so you're getting 4 times the size of a serum for $18. So if the skin barrier, skin sensitivity, blemishes, and redness are concerns that you care about, this is ultimately a really efficient way to get solutions from both an application and a dollar point of view. So one thing that exists for all retailers are these things called reset dates. Okay, so resets is what we call them. And resets basically means anytime the store brings in new products or changes out the products in a store, right? So at Target, we actually only have like 1, maybe 2 resets a year. So that means there are only 2 times a year that we could possibly bring in new products. At Ulta, that's actually 3 times a year. So we have February, we have July, and we have October. Those are really specific dates and they're published and they're the same time every single year. And basically, you know that like if you're launching something, you have to keep those in mind. If you're launching something in January, it's not going to go into stores until that reset in February, right? Or if you're launching something in November, the next time you can actually get it in stores is February. So reset dates are extremely important. And every reset, there will be like a presentation that you make to a retailer. So some people call them line reviews, where you just go through your line, you talk about what's performing, what's not, and you introduce new products that you want to go into the stores and you pitch those to the buyers. Some people call them market meetings. It's really all the same. It's just presenting all your newness to the retailer and also doing like a little bit of a state of the affairs, like where's the business at, and having that discussion with your retailers because they impact the set. And by set, I mean all the products they carry in a category. So the skincare set. They impact that only once, 2 times, or maybe 3 times a year, but it's a very limited amount of time. So that's where, if you ever see us launch something in like, I don't know, November, know that it's definitely not going into stores. Like there's no chance that something new is going to launch in stores in November and you will see us launching it and it will say available on cocokind.com. and only available on Cocokind.com. And then if you ask us when it's going to stores, we're going to probably tell you the end of January or February because that is exactly when the reset dates are for Target and for Ulta. Let's say that we were going to launch an SPF and the SPF is not ready to be launched in January. Like we're in production mode in January, it's not yet ready. So we can't make that February reset date. And let's say this SPF doesn't hit our warehouse as a finished product until March. We don't have really an option to get it into stores until like July or August at the very earliest. So you might not see that SPF in stores for a long time. So that's where, when we plan our innovation and we plan our new products that are in development, we always have to keep that calendar in mind and try to work around that and make sure that our innovation is landing in stores as soon as possible, but it still makes sense for that product. Because if I created an SPF and it was ready and we launched on Cocokind.com in April, if it goes into the store in August at that reset date, like you're basically past SPF season, which is super not ideal. So we have to think about all of that to make sure like that might mean that we don't actually launch the SPF even though it's ready in April of 2026. We might not launch it until February of 2027 because that's when we can actually launch it in stores and on our website. And sometimes products are so expensive to develop that we're not really willing to only launch it on .com, because for us, the majority of our business is actually through retail right now. So if we don't launch it at retail, you're basically saying like, okay, half of that potential or more than half is actually gone. And sometimes we're not able to support the volume just on cocokind.com. So we have to make a lot of decisions sometimes based on the retail calendars, and some of them cause us to have to delay launches because it might not align with the retailer reset timing. So every single year, we're gonna have like 1, maybe 2 line reviews with our buyers at our retailers to present to them newness. This happens well in advance of the product actually coming out. We have already presented to Ulta what we're planning on launching through July of 2026. Isn't that crazy? Like, they already know, and this happened like, we had to submit forms last month. So by June of 2025, we already had to tell them what's coming down the line through July 2026. They have those meetings and make a lot of those decisions in like August and September. So again, they're making calls on what's going in stores in July 2026 in August 2025. Everything is happening like so far in advance. We're talking like a year in advance. So that's why, like, truly, if you ask our product development team and our sales team, like, I have no idea, is it 2026? Is it 2027? Is it 2025? Because I'm always thinking about like a year or even 2 years ahead of time, because we have so much that we need to get together and develop about a product before we can present it to the retailer. And by the way, when we present those new products to the retailer, they might not even be fully done yet. Like, we might not be finalized on packaging, we might not be finalized on artwork, we might not be finalized even on formula yet, because it is so far in advance. It could be 13 months in advance, and we're still in the middle of product development. So sometimes we actually have to kind of do our best, but we have to present like the concept. Like, we have this concept that we're planning, this is what it's gonna look like, but the packaging is subject to change, the price point is subject to change, because we're still in the midst of all of our testing, all of our development, and things might change from now until, I don't know, 13 months until it actually launches. There's a lot that can happen in the world. So a lot of times what we present to them is more like, they're like mock products or they're concepts. And that's really what the retailers go off of to make a decision on if they're gonna bring it into the stores the next year. So we really try to do our best when it comes to aligning our Cocokind.com launches with the retail launches, but that's exactly why when we launch a product, it might not be all of a sudden available at like Cocokind.com, Ulta, and Target, and Whole Foods. Like, it takes a while, and it's all dependent on when each retailer has their reset dates. There's so many benefits of retail, right? Like I said, you just get access to a volume of customers, a number of customers that you just wouldn't be able to, especially as a smaller brand. And it really opens up so many doors for you. It offers so much distribution that is just more accessible to more people in the country. And that is so, so valuable. But truly, working with retail is not easy, and you need pockets. You need to understand the risks that you're taking, and you have to understand that your product can sit there. Our product can sit there on a shelf, and there could be nobody buying it. That is such a real thing. And like I said in my first episode, that's why when I first started, before we had any Instagram followers, really, like, I had to do demos and talk to customers one by one, because otherwise the products were just like sitting on the shelves. And when I say that there's risk of not selling, it's not just that you're not going to have great sales. It's actually that the retailer could discontinue you. And sometimes getting discontinued can be absolutely debilitating for a company. And let me tell you why. So let's say I were to sell 10,000 units of a product to Target. And like electrolyte water cream, right? It's $20. Let's say they usually pay me $10. So I took in $10, but they're selling it for $20, an electrolyte water cream. And I sell it and it doesn't sell well. It's just sitting on the shelves and no one's buying it. So out of 10,000 that I sold to Target, I actually only sold 5,000. And they have 5,000 left, and they make a decision to discontinue it. What I have to do as a brand is I am responsible for paying back the retailer on those 5,000 units. And Target especially has this really crazy policy where you actually have to pay them on their lost revenue. So not on what they paid you, but you have to pay them on how much revenue they could have been getting. So in that example, if there's 5,000 units left and they make a decision to discontinue it, I have to pay them 5,000 times $20. Again, they only pay me $10, but I have to pay them the full retail price. So if there are 5,000 units remaining, I have to pay them 20 times 5,000. If you do that math, that's a lot of money, right? That's $100,000 I have to pay back Target when they discontinue a product. And it's important to talk about discontinuations because it's happened to us. And a lot of times people think that it is our choice, but it's really not. It is the retailer's choice, but determined by what the customer is telling them. If a product truly doesn't sell, if it's at the bottom of the pack, if it is not performing compared to all the other products in the set of skincare products, of course, you can't blame a retailer for cutting it out of the set. They have so many brands constantly trying to meet with them to get their products on the shelf. They have so many new products from brands that are crushing it, that are constantly trying to get on the shelf. So if a product is really not performing well, a retailer will easily cut it, and that's not even their fault, right? Like, of course, that's their prerogative and it makes sense for their business. Why are they going to keep on the shelf something that isn't performing? So even though it is really cutthroat, like, that is what I feel like when that happens to us, I really do take it in as like our own kind of mistake, our own failure to like get a product off the ground. And I feel like we had to really learn this lesson through the years, and we've gotten burned a couple of times, and you all have seen us discontinue products. And the reason being because they didn't perform. A retailer took it out of the store. We had to pay a large amount of money back to the retailer. And without the volume coming from our retail partners, we couldn't sustain that product just on Cocokind.com. So we had to discontinue it. It takes a lot for us to actually produce every single product, even on Cocokind.com. So without the retailers, like, we really have to believe like there is a reason, there's volume, there's a purpose why this product is still in existence. Otherwise, it is very hard for us to sustain if a retailer discontinues it because performance wasn't there. Like I said, we have had to learn that lesson several times, and I don't even believe it's a retailer's fault. I take that as our own failure to develop a product that had enough product market fit to reach enough audience, to market it appropriately, to balance that product with every other product in our portfolio. And I take it as a learning lesson each and every time, because certainly we have no intention of launching products just to have them be discontinued. We put so much effort into our product development, so it truly is such a bad outcome when that happens. The best thing we have done is made sure that we have major learning lessons every single time that happens. Like, was a product not priced correctly? Was the packaging an issue? Was the user experience of something not great? Like, for instance, our Silk SPF, we saw a lot of people had pilling on their skin, so they just weren't repurchasing it. There's so many reasons, and we have to look into that every single time, and we have to try to use that to make our product development stronger and stronger. It is way too costly, and it is such a bummer when we launch something just to have it not work and then ultimately be discontinued. I know that that can be a really frustrating experience, but trust me, we are doing everything in our power to make sure that doesn't happen. And I'm really happy to report that all of our new launches this year have absolutely been crushing it. They are topping the charts. That's the Electrolyte Water Cream, the Ceramide Lip Blur Balms, of course, and the Calming Magnesium Mist. Like, I really believe this is a year that we took so many of those learning lessons from products that didn't work, and we applied it to the product development of these products, which you have to remember that's happening in like 2023, starting in 2023 through 2024 to launch them in 2025. We really took all of our learnings and we were really critical about what are we doing, what are we developing, how is this the best product possible, how are we making sure there's a product market fit for it, right? I've talked about in the past the example of we were going to launch our Ceramide Lip Blur Balms at $15, but last minute we emailed the retailers and everything. We were like, no, we're revising this pricing down to $12 because we were so nervous, and we believed that $12 would make these lip balms a very strong product market fit. And we didn't want to launch this amazing product, even though it was justified at $15, if it didn't have product market fit because of the price point. So we really tried to be critical with every single thing we've launched this year to make sure that they're successful. That is the end goal, right? For our products to launch, to go into retails, to have a customer that is excited about it, and to continuously find a product market fit for each and every product. Even though the retailers may take something out because it didn't perform, ultimately, that responsibility is on us. I don't blame the retailer for that, because if we have a product and it is truly in the bottom quartile of a retailer's set, I can't blame them for taking it out. I can't blame them for discontinuing it, no matter how much I love it. It means that there wasn't enough of an audience for this product, or we didn't spend enough money, or we didn't have enough time to make sure we found an audience for our product. So we're kind of taking in all those learnings and making sure every product we feel like there's a good audience for it, and that we have enough time and resources to dedicate ourselves to new products to make sure that we're setting them up for success. When it comes to retailers, that's just one example of how it is really, 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 really expensive to work with retail. And if you're not successful, it could be extremely costly. I've definitely heard of brands that sold into Target or sold into a huge retailer and didn't sell, and then ended up having to pay back the retailer and ended up having to go out of business because it was just too costly. That is so unfortunate. And that's why I always caution people and caution founders, like, if you're gonna go into store, make sure you have a customer.
This is not a regular ad. This is a useful ad, okay? People always think that the higher vitamin C percentages are better, and that is not necessarily true. You don't need 15% vitamin C to get results. The first thing to understand about vitamin C is that there are many different forms of vitamin C, from the pure form ascorbic acid to its derivatives. There are so many different types of derivatives of vitamin C. We use ascorbyl glucoside, and what you might be surprised to learn is that clinical studies for brightening, hyperpigmentation, and boosting collagen for so many forms of vitamin C derivatives are done when they are used at lower percentages, like 1% or 2%, whereas traditional ascorbic acid is typically needed at a much higher percent, like over 10%, to be efficacious. However, when you use really high percentages, that tends to lead to instability, and that's why derivative forms of vitamin C have gotten so popular. They're made to be effective at lower percentages, which reduces sensitivity and instability. So if you're using a product that has ascorbic acid, yes, you may need a higher percent for it to work. But if you're using any other forms of vitamin C, which are becoming super popular, in most cases, efficacy and results have been proven at much lower percentages. We use ascorbyl glucoside in our vitamin C. It's been tested at 2%. We use it at 2%, while also pairing it with 2% azelaic acid for redness and calming and helping acne-prone skin. And it also has sea grape caviar and hyaluronic acid. We hope you give it a try.
So like I mentioned at the very start of this call, we actually have our first ever brand end cap at Ulta Beauty right now. I think you all know what end caps are, but just in case, because I feel like these are like all retail lingo things too. End caps are basically like the shelves at the end of an aisle. It's like kind of like what faces you right before you go into an aisle. And oftentimes you'll see like brand takeovers of these end caps. Sometimes it'll be a couple of brands on an end cap. Sometimes it'll just be one brand. And in the past, we've done a shared end cap, like we are 1 out of 3, but we have never ever had our very own just Cocokind end cap. And that is what is live in 1,000 out of 1,400 doors at Ulta Beauty right now. It's actually, the specific dates are August 3rd through August 30th. This is truly our biggest investment we have ever made as a company. How much, you ask? $150,000. And that is the cost of buying out the space at Ulta, as well as merchandising it with these trays. The trays that you see on the shelves, those cost a ton of money. And especially right now, right, they're getting hit with tariffs too. So they're really expensive. So between those two things, not even the cost of the product, but just the trays and the actual space at Ulta, $150,000. It is truly the biggest investment we as a company have ever made. Next time you see your favorite brand, which is hopefully Cocokind, on an end cap, just know that it took an incredible amount of dollars, and it is a huge investment for that to happen. It's actually really, really expensive. This is our first brand end cap because, one, we didn't really have those resources before, but two, a retailer isn't even gonna give it to you unless they think that you're gonna sell well. Because you have huge brands like P&G and L'Oreal brands and all these brands, they're willing to spend like way more than 150K. And so they're like, well, if this brand is going to buy out that space and they're gonna sell 10 times more than Cocokind, why would I give that space to Cocokind, right? I'm gonna get way more revenue as a retailer if I give it to these big brands. So historically, we were never really eligible for our own brand end cap until this year because of how well we're doing at Ulta Beauty specifically. And they found the space for us in August. And it is truly our first ever full brand takeover of an end cap. I think we found out about this end cap maybe in March or so. And basically from March to August 3rd, which is when it went live, we had to sprint. We had to sprint to make sure we had the inventory. We had to immediately create the design of this end cap, which means, designing like what the artwork looks on the back of the end cap, designing the trays that hold the product. We had to do so much actual design to make sure that this huge end cap, this huge dollar amount that we're investing, is representing our brand in the best way possible. And so that maybe you don't even know who Cocokind is, but you see this end cap and you're like, oh my God, this is a brand that I really want to try. Or you get this feeling like there's something about this brand that resonates with me. That's something we put a lot of time and effort to in terms of designing the end cap, to make sure that it's appealing to people, appealing to shoppers, some that know us and some that have no idea who we are. So we put a ton of work into actually designing it. And then we, of course, have to ship our products to the stores, get it all together. And the brand end cap only lives for 27 days. And sometimes the stores, they might not even really set it on time. So really you're spending so much money for like maybe 15 days of end cap, but that is the reality of retail and how expensive it is to take over an end cap. But I truly view it as an opportunity, because when you're on an end cap, you get more foot traffic than a lot of times when you're in stores. So presumably the hope is with this end cap that we actually sell well. And of course, a retailer like Ulta, they will look at like, how did the Cocokind end cap perform versus X brand or Y brand or Z brand? And if we perform well, they'll be like, oh, well, you know what? I want to give Cocokind an end cap in 2026. But if we don't perform well, we're obviously not going to get that opportunity again. So it is an opportunity to prove ourselves. And we felt like with our magnesium mist, with our lip launch, and with EWC, and just all of our top sellers, like it was a great idea to just put this on the end cap. We felt like this is a year where we have a customer who will meet us in stores, or we've made enough noise on TikTok, on Instagram, that there will be people ready to shop us at this end cap in August. So please help us spread the word. And I will let you know if the end cap was a success or not, because it really is determined on, did we meet our sales projections for it or not? So we will see. But I know that Ulta has big projections for us. We have big projections. So now there's really nothing left to do except make sure the inventory gets there and there's stuff to sell, right? And make sure that there's a customer who knows about this end cap. So that's a lot of times why brands will do so much marketing of end caps, is because we really need the products to move. Otherwise, it ends up being a really expensive endeavor that does not have an ROI. At the same time, I mentioned that we are actually doubling our space right now at Ulta. So previously we had one shelf. Many of you shop us at Ulta Beauty and you see that we actually have one shelf. And currently we just doubled that. So now we officially have 2 shelves, which is really exciting. And we actually learned about that in January based on last year's performance. Ulta came to us and said like, yes, we are ready to expand you. It was really exciting for us, and we're excited to double our space. So that actually just rolled out. And on that second shelf, you'll notice that we put in 3 new products into Ulta, which were the body products. So the KP stick, the Ceramide body oil stick, and the retinol body cream. And we also put in a brand new Hydration Hero set, which is incredible value. It's $26 for a full-size revitalizing eye cream, a travel-size ceramide serum, and a travel-size electrolyte water cream. And the full-size revitalizing eye cream is $19 in itself. So it's just a really strong value. So you'll see those items on that second shelf now. However, it's not all gravy, because on the day of this reset, right, that's when they changed the set and gave us our second shelf and made a bunch of changes in the store, brought in new products, took out bad selling products. We got our second shelf, and I immediately go to stores and I see that we got moved down on the shelves. We were the second shelf, which is kind of at like eye level at Ulta. And I thought we were gonna get like, just basically add a shelf, right? So we'd have the second shelf and then we'd add a third shelf right underneath it. And while that exists in some stores, for a lot of stores, probably the majority of stores, we got moved down to the 4th and the 5th shelves. And there's only 6 shelves. So basically means we're on the bottom half. And I was so extremely bummed about that. And it was, as much as I wanted to celebrate expanding our space, it was so disappointing to me that after crushing it this year so far at Ulta, and after having a really good year last year too, and having so much exciting things ahead at Ulta and just generally in the Cocokind world, that we would be moved down to the 4th and 5th shelf, which definitely is not ideal. So you'll see if the store by you has us in the 4th and 5th shelf, you'll see that like it's noticeably harder to find Cocokind now than it was a month ago. And that is because we are moved down. And I think it's just a really good example that I want to be totally honest with you about, because some of you might not be able to see Cocokind that easily in your stores, which is so crazy to me and such a bummer. And I want you to know that like, we're not supposed to be on the 4th and 5th shelf, like, especially for our performance this year, like that is not cool. Our customer community is allowing us to perform really well this year. And so we absolutely deserve to be at the top shelf. But I think as a brand, it's a bummer because we take our responsibility to perform well really seriously. We don't put that on a retailer. We put that on ourselves. Like, we fully expect the onus of sell-through and selling to customers. That's our responsibility. It's not Ulta's responsibility once we go into stores. And when we deliver on that, it is really exciting and it means a lot. It means that everything we've worked so hard to do is like coming true in the way that we wanted to, or we hope for, we worked so hard for. And so, you know, of course, I want to see that reflected back with the retail partners that we work with. So trust me when I say that I am so determined to get back to the first, second, and third shelf. And I know you guys will help support us as we try to get back there. But that was, as much as there was this like really exciting moment for us and doubling our space and then having our brand endcap, it was also a big bummer for us to see that we were deprioritized to the fourth and fifth shelf. So I want to be honest with you about that, because part of being off brand means like sharing vulnerabilities and not pretending that every moment is this like huge celebration, because maybe you have something that is happening in your life that you're dealing with, like something really positive, but then you had a setback too, and all that is so normal and natural. Like, I want to normalize more than just people talking about all the shiny things that are happening in their lives. And you know, I'm always going to keep it real with you here, and I'm going to share all the ups and downs. It's something I'm very comfortable doing. I feel like that's like my authentic self. I don't have to try hard to just be really real with you all. And I want to set that precedent because I think it helps to make everybody feel better and make sure there's inspiration that, like, yeah, good things happen, bad things happen too, challenges happen, but we're going to use that and we're going to come out better and even more strong. That's the type of inspiration that I think makes us all stronger and better and more resilient for our lives. Not when you just see people living super successful lives and you don't get to hear any of the other challenges they might be going through, that ultimately all those stories help improve all of us and help us see a different perspective, maybe become a little bit more determined. That's what I love, and very much is a part of the Cocokind story. With every 2 steps forward we've probably taken 1 step back, and we've kind of had to deal with that. Every time there's a success, there's something that is a challenge too. There's always something that is a challenge in the moment. Every single day we're dealing with multiple challenges, and you know, it's important that I share that with you because I don't want you to think that like everything is just incredible, amazing, successful, and couldn't be better, because that's definitely not true. If you are shopping Ulta, if you're shopping Target, which I'll talk about in a future episode because that's a whole thing in itself, and you need a restock of Cocokind, just know that we are so appreciative of your support, because it is really expensive for us to even be there. And things are going well for us, but there are always challenges. So every time we have support, it's always still like a really positive surprise to me. And we are so thankful because it really is such a competitive environment at retailers. So we could kind of use all the support that we could get, and it really does make a difference. Like, your purchases truly make a difference for our company. So thank you for shopping us at retail. I know so many people listening are true loyalists of Cocokind. So if you are not planning on restocking and you don't need a restock, there are other ways, like sharing your love of Cocokind with your friends, or if your friend is going to Ulta, telling them about Cocokind, or sending us a picture of the end cap that you see in your store, because we actually would love to see how it looks and making sure that there's the right inventory at that store, because otherwise, trust me, we call that store. There's so many different ways to support really monumental moments like our brand end cap currently at Ulta without having to spend dollars. So we really appreciate all the different ways that you show your support for us and you show up for us constantly. So I think I covered everything I wanted to. Let me know in the comments if you have any other questions that I didn't dive into, and I can make sure that I cover that in a separate episode. But I hope this helps you understand a little bit about how our business works and how the retail partners come into play. And I can't emphasize enough how incredibly lucky we are to be a brand that is sold at Ulta and Target and Whole Foods and so many places, because it truly is a team effort, and we wouldn't be there. We could easily have been discontinued if it wasn't for our customer community constantly coming to use and try and love our products and supporting us as a brand. We don't take that for granted because it really is hard. It's a hard world out there with retail. We're still very much on the path to success, but with a lot of challenges that we're facing. So your support truly means everything, and we could not do retail without you. So that's it from me today. If there are any other questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you next week.